Super Rugby Pacific round number 2. Saturday games, of which there were 3. A couple in New Zealand and 1 across the ditch in Australia. We'll go through the games, some of the key events, stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how they went. The first one, Chiefs Highlanders. Remember, this one was being played in Queenstown. You probably won't find... It's a club ground, but I mean, pretty nice views. Pretty nice backdrop. To be fair, Queenstown's the kind of place where you look any direction and it's pretty stunning. And also I found at the club ground, the lack of a crowd wasn't really as noticeable. The second ground they played out for the Crusaders and Hurricanes game was in Dunedin at Forsyth Bar, which is a regular Super Rugby stadium. So the fact that it was empty, like the echoes and whatnot, were much more noticeable. Not so much at the club ground, but yeah, there you go. They couldn't play the second game there because... no lights at the ground. So the first one was a daytime game. Chiefs Highlanders. Good to see the Highlanders back in there. What is that, like burgundy? Their away kit. Like they used to play in green for a number of years, but they've kind of gone back to their roots. So that was pleasing to see. But yeah, it wasn't enough for them. They got beaten 26-16. One try to the Landers. Lienert-Brown got one with 10 minutes to go. After they had just had one TMO'd before that. Lynch's had gone close. But, yeah, the Highlanders got one. They kind of just went through a bunch of phases and Lienert-Brown burrowed over. But to be fair, there'd been 3 tries prior to that to the Chiefs. The first one, Sam Cane. Sowakula was in the build-up to that one. He was in the bit of everything. This game, to be fair, him and old Xavier Rowe. The second one was Sowakula himself. There's a little bit of controversy about that one because he took a little, what'd you call it, a jump? A little leap, a little hurdle, whatever it was, and evaded a tackler. Sowakula right down the blind side after a scrum. It was really well worked. I mean, a lot of people saying you can't do that, you can't jump. It's not actually a specific law. Like, I'm not really a big laws guy who reads all the laws, but I do know there's nothing specific in the laws which says you can't jump into a tackle. It's just generally referees say you can't do dangerous stuff, which jumping into a tackle is often considered to be, but you've certainly seen plenty of kind of little jumps for the line not be pinged. So I think that's probably why that one is a good try. Don't quote me on that. I'm far from a guy who likes to overanalyze refereeing performances. You guys know me. But yeah, I think if it was an open play, you probably can't do that. But when going for the line, it seems to be acceptable. There you go. So Sowakula got one, and Narawa got one in 48 minutes. Brodie Retallick's pass for that one was pretty bloody nice. So yeah, some good tries in this one. 4 tries all up. 3 penalties for the Chiefs, 3 for the Landers. The Landers actually had the lead for a little while. It was kind of an exchange of penalties early. 3-0 to the Chiefs, 3 apiece, 6-3 to the Landers, and then the try made it 10-6. So kind of a wee bit of back and forth. The Chiefs, I think, main concern with this one was their line out. It was pretty costly at times. At one point, they had a 50-22 and then immediately lost the line out, which kind of ruins the whole point of getting a 50-22. But I mean, like by half time, the Chiefs are ahead 18-6 and they've got 58% possession. They've got, their territory's pretty close, but their line out's 7 from 10. But the Landers, like knock-ons 8-4. So they've had less ball and double the knock-ons. That was a pretty frustrating one if you're a Highlanders fan, to be honest, the handling. And it seems like a lot of the teams who lost in this opening round just looked that little bit rustier, just like handling errors that you probably wouldn't expect to see if they're kind of firing all guns blazing. But yeah, I mean, the Highlanders started the second half well to make it 18-9 with a penalty, but then Retallick's pass hit them back straight away. So I thought Retallick had kind of blown it. He carries for the line when there's a man outside him, but all he ends up doing is drawing 2 guys into him and then passes. So kind of really thing of beauty stuff. Chiefs' defence was pretty hard to break down, hence the Highlanders only score on the 1 try. But yeah, no bonus points in this one. Landers don't get close enough. Chiefs 1 try short of getting to 3 try more than your opponent bonus points. So yeah, the Chiefs look good though. I mean, Aaron Smith looked pretty sharp. He had a nice pounce on some loose ruck ball. Was looking pretty sharp, probably moment of the game for the Landers from my point of view, and then Retallick's pass for the Chiefs, which I'm still going on about. But yeah, good to see them back in action. Clean break 6-2 to the Chiefs. Chiefs more possession, 54%, more territory, 51, so pretty close. Knock-ons, though, 14-7 across the game. The Landers handling was just infuriating if you're a Landers fan, I'm sure. Line out, though, for the Chiefs, 16 from 11, so too many going astray. If the Landers hadn't been coughing up the ball as much as they did, then the Chiefs lineup may have been more costly, but they were kind of fortunate in that it was kind of balanced out by the Highlanders dropping regular ball. The Highlanders lineup in comparison was pretty good, 10 from 11. Sowakula has 45 run meters, a clean break, a defender beaten, 15 from 15 tackles, and a try. Guy is everywhere. Timu, I think it's his first game for the Highlanders. The winger has a 40 run meters, a clean break, 2 defenders beaten. Lynch's 17 from 18 tackles and a try. Chalked off, but 26-16. Good start for the Chiefs. They're looking the business so far anyway. They've got Moana Pacifica next, assuming that game goes ahead. And the Highlanders, we've got the Crusaders. Speaking of the Crusaders, they played their game in Dunedin. I didn't actually know any games were going to be played in Dunedin. I think it was initially going to be in Invercargill, but they like Dunedin more because it's got the roof, but also it's a further drive from Queenstown. So it's 4 hours from their base in Queenstown, where all the Kiwi teams are based at the moment. 4 hours to the ground, and they got to go 4 hours back. That's 8 hours of driving. That's a fair chunk. Adi Xavier has kind of already said he's not too chuffed about the old driving situation, but yeah, Crusaders 42-32. Weird game in that I don't think either side's going to be that happy with it. The Crusaders were sitting pretty with a bonus point at one point. The Hurricanes, how many tries denied? Like 3? It could have been a different outcome for them if they'd managed, especially at the end of the first half. The Hurricanes are knocking on the door for about 20 minutes. They get the Crusaders yellow carded, so they got an extra man. And what happens? The Crusaders score 6 points during that yellow card. To the Hurricanes, none. For mine, that's the most telling period of the game. But interestingly, the Crusaders looked pretty sharp. I mean, they did concede the first points to a penalty, but whenever Will Jordan got the ball, it was looking very dangerous. I mean, the Crusaders were just hitting the ball. Even Fergus Burke, I haven't seen him play enough to be too judgmental, but I didn't think he kind of had that running game in him. He was looking real sharp. You guys who watch more Mitre 10 than me will probably be able to let me know about that. But it was 12-3 at one point with the Crusaders getting early tries through Whai Ganuku. He ends up getting a hat-trick. He got the first 2. Enor put Will Jordan through a hole for the second one. That was like proper thing of beauty stuff. It was a flat pass, but it was, flat enough. The Hurricanes did settle things down with a penalty to make it 12-6. They did manage to get one at least in return. The Hurricanes, Ruben Love ended up getting one on 28 minutes. So it was nice to see Ruben Love and Fergus Burke get a crack. Both kind of young guys steering the ship from number 10, but that actually started from Geordie Barrett missing a penalty. Was it an easy one? I know Geordie misses one really easy kick in this game, but Wes Husson, to be fair, goes through, I think it was Matera and, was it Harvey or Bridge? But yeah, went through a gap pretty tidily and set up that try, so that was kind of good hands. Good from the Canes, because as I said, they seemed to be shell-shocked when they conceded those first couple of tries. And then from there, they just camp out in the Crusaders 22. They get all the momentum, but do you think they can score? I mean, Xavier gets held up. How they held him up, I don't know. Absolutely deserved the try, but that one gets held up. Jaeger gets a yellow card for the Crusaders. Almua looks to have gone over after about 10 phases, but then they ping him for a double movement because he was gone to his knees in the build-up. And then the Crusaders kick a penalty before half-time. And then the start of the second half. So both during the yellow card. So the Crusaders win that yellow card despite having a man down 6-0. That's how brutal the Crusaders are, man. Like if you don't take your chances, you can pretty much guarantee they'll make you pay for it. And sure enough, I mean, half-time, the Hurricanes had 57% possession, 55% territory. The Crusaders had to make 93 tackles to the Hurricanes' 60. So they were under the pump. And some people will call it out. The penalty count was 7-3. Like the Crusaders generally seem to be on the wrong side of the penalty count, which is an interesting one because I've looked at loads of competitions, and you guys know I love my stats. And generally, bottom teams tend to concede more penalties because they're usually under the pump. They're defending for more periods. Pressure leads to penalties. The Crusaders are one of the few teams that kind of bucks that trend, in that they are a top team and still manage to be quite high on the old penalties conceded list. Just seems to be a thing. But yeah, Burke long-range penalty started second half, 18-13. Crusaders line-out move, man, on 50 minutes. That's the hat-trick for Whanganuku. Just when you think they're going to maul it, they don't. They pull out a backline move, which was pretty sweet, 25-13. A penalty makes it 28-13. When the Canes go through some phases, they start to go backwards. I mean, Xavier looks to have got the Canes back in the action when he just takes it up the guts himself with a big old defender beaten in a... he takes it from the back of a ruck, right? There's just nobody there. Where's Drummond? I don't know. But, Xavier looks to have gone over for a try, but they go back 2 phases for a wee fingertip knock on. I think it was Ben May. Goodness gracious, that was a tough one. But, so nothing going the Hurricanes' way. And then, sure enough, the next minute, the Crusaders are down the other end getting a penalty try, and it's a yellow card for the Canes. So it's just one of those ones, it's the ultimate slap in the face, right? You've just been denied a fingertip TMO, and then the next minute the Crusaders have got you under your sticks and you're 14 men on the field. So, yeah, pretty brutal. 35-13. It was looking like it could be a pretty bad result for the Canes at that point. The Crusaders are sitting pretty in bonus point territory, but Burke gets yellow carded for a bit of a cynical killing of the ball playing on the ground when the Canes are hot on attack. And then the Canes actually manage to score. They get the ball to Bale and Sullivan on 69 minutes. Then Barrett gets one on 75. And even your man Jackson Garden-Bishop gets one right at the death. So the Canes end up going from a position where they are losing by a bonus point, 35-13, to getting within potential striking distance to at least get a losing bonus point out of this game. But it doesn't happen. The Canes were relentless at the end of the game. Geordie Barrett seemed pretty fired up generally. Like, it was kind of pleasing to see him get a try, because he was involved in a bit of everything. So, weird game. Like I said, the Crusaders hung on for long enough, and the Canes just missed so many chances, denied tries, missed chances in the first half. Crusaders winning that yellow card 6-0, I think, is pretty crucial. But, I mean, from a Crusaders point of view, you let the bonus point go, which is maybe one area that Scott Robertson won't be too happy. The Canes come close to getting their losing bonus point, but not to be done. The Canes win the run meters 474 to 361. They end up with more territory, 65%, more possession, 53%, more clean breaks, 4 to 7. The Canes, more defenders beaten, 20 to 12. The Crusaders have to make more tackles, 174 to 104. Penalties conceded is 14-9. You'd think, looking at those stats, the Canes won, but it was 42-32. So, Will Jordan, 125 run meters, 2 clean breaks and 5 defenders beaten. There was no rust for that fella. Geordie Barrett, also pretty sharp, 101 run meters, a clean break and 3 defenders beaten. Christie, he's back from injury from last year. Remember, he loves the tackle. 25 out of 26 from him. Artie Xavier beats 5 defenders. Flanders has 14 from 15 tackles. Interesting game. Bit of a try-fest. Good to see the Canes come back into it, but honestly, I think they'll be gutted that they had those tries chalked off, but also they couldn't break the Crusaders down into that first half. Crusaders have got Highlanders, like I mentioned. The Hurricanes have got the Blues, so we'll see how that goes. The one game from across the ditch, the Reds and the Rebels. I was predicting a bit of a blowout for this one, because the Reds are supposed to be the team to beat in Australia, and the Rebels, like, losing to the Drua in pre-season, and the Drua got pretty well beaten by the Tars, made me think the Rebels are going to be pretty bad. And sure enough, it was 23-5. It's like a pretty comfortable win, but it's not an absolute hiding. It's not bonus point territory for the Reds, so they'll maybe be a little bit gutted they couldn't get that one more try. But to be fair, it absolutely piddled down in that second half. The handling was atrocious, but the weather was just that bad. Like, Queensland at this time of year seems like there's a lot of games they seem to have kind of, issues with handling. It's just because I guess it's so greasy with the kind of warm weather up there, a bit of moisture in the air. But, I mean, the rain just seemed to make it worse. There wasn't much going on in that second half. The first half, it seemed a bit better. The Reds pressured the Rebels early but couldn't score. The Rebels returned the favour but also couldn't score. There was a big hit by Michael Wells on James O'Connor at one point. That was one of the tackles of the game. Absolutely flattened him. He saw it coming right at the last second out the corner of his eye. But yeah, Michael Wells, massive hit. I'm not usually thinking Michael Wells is the biggest hitter. He gets through a lot of work rate, but that one was a pretty pleasing one. Taniela Tupou got the first try out on the left wing, interestingly enough, for the big fella. Blindside of a ruck, and he's taken on Joey Powell, who must be the lightest man on the field, so that's a mismatch if you've ever seen one. Fair play to Joey Powell. He tries to go in. He tries to stop Big Taniela, but there's nothing doing there. It's a try time all day. So yeah, that one's 7 points to nil. The Reds, D has to go 10 plus phases, but eventually that man Tupaea gets yellow carded for a cynical offside, so it's a good chance for the Rebels. Joey Powell goes close, but he bobbles it and knocks it on from close range, so unable to kind of get his revenge. The Reds actually pushed on despite being a man down, and they eventually got 3 points during the yellow card to make it 10 points to nil. So yeah, it's one of those things about winning teams. They're able to kind of hold out when they're under pressure and then immediately seem to punish the other team down the other end. So that was the case for this one. The Rebels, though, did get a maul try pretty much after the restart, right as the Reds have come back to 15 men. So the team had to check it, but Wilkin got it. So that's their only points of the game. They missed the conversion, but at least they're on the board, and 10-5 is still game on. But 36 minutes, the Reds absolutely monstered the Rebels scrum. And interestingly, that one was kind of all from Reece Hodge knocking it on in his own 22. I don't think the pass was great. I think it was a bit low. But yeah, just the Rebels kind of the masters of their own demise with that one. So it's a penalty to the Reds. 13-5 at half-time. The Rebels have had more possession, more territory, but turnovers conceded is 11-5 in one half. That's pretty high for the Rebels. So yeah, a bit costly, and there's only one clean break in that first half. Second half, the Reds put a bunch of pressure on. Harry Wilson gets a try with the old go-go gadget arm. Howie had the presence of mind to stick his arm out when seemingly nobody else knew what was going on, because he was on his back and just chucked his arm out, dotted the ball down the line. So good quick thinking from him. He's another man who wants to impress to get back into the Wallabies. But yeah, nice inside ball from James O'Connor for that one, to be fair. 18-5. Then it starts piddling down. And there's not much going on. There's just knock-ons. There's line-out errors. And I cannot emphasize how heavy that rain looked. It looked monstrously heavy on camera, which means in real life it was no doubt even heavier. Tamati Ioane, I'm not that familiar with him, but he absolutely flattened, along with the Wells tackle, one of the moments of the game, he flattened Angus Scott Young. Scott Young goes in for a tackle, and Ioane just flattens him. Big don't argue, so that was kind of pleasing. Harry Wilson got taken out by Angus Gardner, the ref, at one point, which was interesting, to say the least. Despite the conditions, the Reds do get one at the death. Fluke puts in a little kick through for Jock Campbell, who dots it down, so it finishes 23-5. They missed the conversion. Yeah, I don't think the Reds will be that pleased, but the conditions were pretty horrendous. The turnovers conceded finishes 23-12, which is very, very, very high. Did I write down what it was for the other games? I'll have to have a look. But 23-12, yeah, is... I can't see it on that game, but it's just... 23 turnovers conceded in one game is a pretty horrendous number. So, yeah, 14, 15 is usually about as high as you go. So 23 for the Rebels, pretty costly. Run meters 290 to 226, so not that much in it. The Reds line out 12 from 17, like the Chiefs. Is a bit of an area to work on. The Rebels were 12 from 13, which is actually not too bad. Wilson, like I mentioned, man, along with that try, 51 run meters, a clean breaker defender beaten, 16 from 16 tackles. He was playing like a bit of a man possessed. Matt Phillip, 23 run meters and 3 defenders beaten. Yeah, one of the flankers, I think, for the Rebels had 15 from 15 tackles, but yeah, 5 points in 80 minutes. Probably not the best shift, although conditions not all that conducive in that second half especially. The Reds have got the Waratahs next. I think that's an away match. And the Rebels will play the Force. The Force are playing today, which is Sunday. So we'll see how the Force go and how that matchup is looking. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the games. What did you reckon? Do you think the Crusaders and the Chiefs are looking like the teams to beat? Did the Reds disappoint a little bit by not putting the Rebels to the sword? Or do you think the conditions kind of dictated how that game went? You guys have any thoughts? And I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.